So let's be honest with ourselves when we are having these discussions.
As Kenyans continue to digest the 2024-2025 budget read by Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndung'u, economic analysts seem to agree with their concerns so far that the budget is overambitious and will burden Kenyans through payment of taxes.
The adverse effect of increasing taxes is they create another problem of tax evasion. Sometimes they don't consider what the impact of increasing these taxes is, that most people will try to evade the high tax rates.
In terms of the measures that we are coming up with, we need a review and state that let's have a review of our tax system and say, let's have a sunset cross and say, let's have, for example, 4 years, so that we create an environment which will be better for our investors.
The Institute of Economic Affairs is among the first entities to present their post-budget analysis, indicating that the total public debt as a percentage of GDP has been rising steadily from a low rate of 42.9% in 2012 to the highest rate recorded in the decade of 71.4% in 2022. This results from the government's over-reliance on debt to finance the ever-growing fiscal deficit. And that's why now the government has been forced to allocate more funding to servicing of debt as opposed to development.
It means that then, in terms of our deficit rising, it means that it's like we have a structural problem with our deficit, in that the money that we borrow to finance our budget basically should be development component, to ensure that whatever investments that we are making as a country is able to generate revenue so that we are able to compensate all what we are borrowing.
Another area of concern was the Office of the Auditor General, which IEA says faces a concerning funding gap of 2.53 billion shillings for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
The resource requirement versus the allocation. I know in the previous chart we see there has been a small marginal increase in their budget of about 300 million, but that is insignificant.
In the budget, sectors such as national security and education have less than 10% of their total budgets allocated to development, which is generally low.
For government to suspend hiring of staff, especially in important sectors such as education, because of a deficit. Guys, in the adult world, people have needs, right? And there are things you can afford. So if the arrangement of government is such that it is not possible to release some people from work, and you cannot afford to pay more teachers, then that's the decision you make. Understanding that it's a difficult decision, but it has to be.
But even with the growth of Kenya's economy, the second Kenya Kwanza 2024-2025 financial year has structural imbalance evidenced by the primary deficit and realistic revenue targets and a high domestic borrowing. Linda Koskei, K24 TV.